delighted to welcome former Liverpool and Newcastle defender to the show on Drive Time, Jose Enrique. Jose, hello, good afternoon, how are you? Oh, well, I could see him a minute ago. He's looking, I don't know if he's got his volume on. Jose, can you hear me? He's speaking, but he's muted himself. He needs to unmute. If you can hear me, unmute yourself. Unmute yourself if you can hear me. He's smiling away, looks great. If you're watching on YouTube, hopefully he'll sort this out. He's got one of his shirts behind. I think he's got a League Cup winner's medal over one of the sides of it. But we just hope. It looks like he's in a gaming chair. Oh, he should be there now. Jose, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Can you hear me now?
And you did the old mute button without realising.
Yeah. I'm an old man.
I would join the old man club. Thank you so much for coming on. A real pleasure. Firstly, how are you nowadays? You good? You well?
Yeah, all good, mate. Can't complain. Obviously, very, very happy to be in the show. So thank you very much for having me as well. But very good, with my son, 10 months old now. A lot of job with him, but very, very happy.
Oh, that's great. That's fantastic. Listen, thank you for coming on. We're all very excited about it. We've got lots to talk to you about. Let's start off by talking about one of your former clubs, the big one, Liverpool. What have you made of them over the last 12 years? 12 months, I should say, not 12 years. How did Liverpool get back into the Champions League next season? And how important is the Europa League to them this season?
Well, first of all, they need to play much better than they did. The season, in many games, it wasn't good enough, and more with the team we are used to see, in the last few years under Klopp. But yeah, definitely, obviously, they need to go all the way for the Europa League, all the way for the Premier League. I believe they have to try to go as well. How they do that? Signing players. They really need to build the team. Obviously, McAllister is a great signing. But other teams for, maybe Declan Rice, maybe going to Arsenal as well, or maybe Manchester City, like many top players, from other teams are sounding as well for other big teams. So Liverpool really need to go in the transfer window and get, I believe, between 4 or 5 players in total.
What do you think, Jose? What happened last season? Why did they fall off from their very best game as much as they did? What did you put it down to?
Well, if I knew, probably I would be next to Klopp, working in Liverpool. That's the truth, But the truth, I don't know. I think because the season before, you're talking about a team that was fighting for the quadruple. For 2 games, they didn't do it. That's the truth. And then all of a sudden, it looks completely a different game. And for me, you still have a very good team, very good players. But I think like any team, you need to keep signing players every season, to keep making the team stronger. The players that they are in the starting lineup and they are already relaxed because they believe they have their position already secure, like it happens in few places, in the Liverpool team. You really need to sign the players there to make sure that, listen, you are the main man, you are a world-class player, but you have someone behind now that can push as well. And I think maybe it wasn't a good enough transfer window last summer.
Do you, Jose, let me ask you, I remember reading Sir Alex Ferguson's book and he said you should always build from strength, and that's obviously what Fergie did. Every time Manchester United won the Premier League, big name players would come in, he'd spend lots of money. It wasn't that long ago Liverpool won the Premier League and of course the Champions League, but then you look at them last season, they get a few injuries, certainly around midfield they look quite weak. Do you think that FSG backed the manager as much as perhaps they should do or not?
I think they should back him a lot more. That's the truth. I think they didn't really. If I'm honest with you, I don't think if you ask any Liverpool fan out there and even the players, they're not gonna say anything, but they will not be happy how it's being handled, the transfer windows in the past. It's true that Liverpool, compared with other big clubs, not spending that much, they've been able, to fight for every single trophy, under Klopp, apart from last season. And they thought that maybe that's the way going forward, and it's not. The way going forward is, I don't mean spending like Manchester City, like PSG, like these kind of clubs do, because Liverpool can do that. But don't go in the cheap all the time, young players, because at the end, the other teams are getting stronger as well. And obviously, that's why the team is not doing well, because the manager is perfect. They have so many world-class players in the team. But you just mentioned, and Ferguson mentioned in his book, you just need to keep upgrading, your team. You just need to keep getting new players, very good players, to compete with the ones that they are already there. If not, as a former player, I can tell you, you get sometimes comfortable, because you don't have anyone behind you say, well, I play, doesn't matter. These guys, they won every single trophy as well. So it's very difficult to give them that hunger if they don't have someone as well behind you, pushing you as well to keep going as well.
Jose, just moving away from Liverpool slightly, one player today that's very much in the news is Jude Bellingham. There was some talk at one point about maybe he might end up at Anfield. He's now at Real Madrid. What are we going to expect from Jude Bellingham as a Galactico? What do you think? He's got the number 5 shirt as well from Zidane. How big and how heavy is that shirt going to feel?
I don't think it's going to feel heavy for him. I think it depends on the player. Obviously, I'm not sure because the language, he has to learn the language as well. But obviously, many players, they speak English as well in that team. But I love him. I think he was the best number 8 that anyone could buy in the world. He would have fit in every single starting 11 in every club in the world. I think actually I would love him to wear a red shirt, different color instead of white, red. Because I really believe he's the number 8. It's that kind of signing, for Liverpool, it would have been the kind of signing like Van Dijk was, like Alisson was, that kind of signing.
Yeah.
I think Real Madrid, they just got a magnificent player that I think is going to be a massive, big legend for Real Madrid.
He's taken the 5 shirt, as Andy alluded to there, of course, in homage to Zinedine Zidane, a player he looked up to as a kid. And at the top of our show, we were talking about how important shirt numbers are. I'm a big fan of the number. They mean a lot to me. Andy wasn't too fussed throughout his career. Did they mean a lot to you when you joined a certain club? Did you ask for a certain number? And if you got a number you perhaps didn't like, would that make a difference to you?
I think it does in the moment, but then it's no excuse to perform on the pitch. I don't think it's any excuse because of the number. But it's true that every club I joined, I wanted to have the number 3. For example, it was a number that I always wear as a fullback, and that was the number I wanted to wear. But in Celta Vigo, for example, I wear number 2, and it didn't matter at the start. I would love the number 3, but the one who was wearing it, actually, he played a lot more games than me in that time in La Liga, so I need to respect that. But yeah, obviously you can choose the number that you want, and obviously it means something to you. But then when football starts, you forget about that and you just want to play and give your best.
Yeah. Let's move on to Newcastle, Jose. How impressed were you with what they achieved last season, and what are your expectations for them this time?
Well, I love how they played. They played fantastic football, very, very well deserved. Champions League spot, very well deserved. It was a pleasure to watch them. I actually watched them quite a lot last season. And it was a pleasure to see them, very, very nice to see the club in the places that they deserve, because at the end, I played for them for years. I know how the fan base is there. It's fantastic club to play for, and I'm so happy for them. Obviously, no one, I don't think even them and even the manager, the club expected to finish top 4. I believe top 7 even, it would have been an incredible season for Newcastle. But obviously, when they were there fighting for that spot, they really believe. And what I really like about them is that in that moment, like Arsenal, for example, happened with the Premier League title, that they really drop off in one point because the pressure was too much. Newcastle actually handled it very, very well, and says a lot about the team and about the players.
I want to get your views on Eddie Howe. He's done wonderful things in the short amount of space he's been there. A lot of people, including myself actually, are saying that he overachieved. I knew Newcastle would be strong and there'd be a difficult side to beat throughout the 12 months, but I didn't actually expect they'd end up with Champions League football. How highly do you rate Eddie Howe, and how far can he take them, do you think?
Listen, obviously, if we're talking just about the Premier League, if no, I think in Pep, because winning the treble will be the manager of the season and of the whole Europe, But in terms of the Premier League, I actually believe Eddie Howe is up there, because to do what he's done with Newcastle, with the players that they signed, that they have a good team, don't get me wrong, but if you look at the team, player by player, really, for me, the only world-class player that I believe he could play anywhere in the world is Bruno Guimaraes, really. The rest, they are players that, well, Trippier is a good player, Isaac are very, very good players, but like a player that you say, okay, I put this guy in any team in the world and I'm sure he will play. You talk about Bruno, but how they play as a team, how this manager, how this man make, these players run as much together as a team. I know when, for example, the winger doesn't press, the midfield goes, but then, how they are synchronized between them. It's been fantastic to watch. And for me, like I say, it's between him and Pep is the manager of the season for me in the Premier League, no doubt about that.
Yeah. What about what they're going to do in the summer, Jose. Look, because of the situation Newcastle now find themselves in, they're a completely different club in now to where they were a few years ago. Do they go for the very biggest names, the stellar signings, the big money individuals, the Neymars, for instance, people like this, or do they still continue to build and slowly but surely try and cement their place at the top?
With all my respects to Neymar, and I love Neymar, I don't think it's the time for Newcastle to go for Neymar. If you asked me a few years ago, I will tell you, listen, and even now, he's a top player. I love him, but I don't think he will suit the style of player of Eddie. Eddie wants players that really, really work hard for the team. He wants wingers as well. In this case, obviously, we're talking about Neymar, but he wants wingers that can take players on, but they can really run up and down all the time as well. That's why Maximin really is not starting for Newcastle, and I love him. 1v1 probably is one of the best in the league. 1v1s. He's the only one that I actually see Kyle Walker struggle with it. The only player. So, and he's not a starting player for Newcastle. So it shows you that Eddie knows what he wants, and I'm sure they will be very, very clever in the transfer window.
talkSPORT Drive with Andy Goldstein. Monday to Friday afternoon from 4 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.